Crusader. Let's go take a look at this thing. We're gonna go take a look at this. It's supposed to be just your typical roof air redeck and roof, I guess, depending on the process you go about it, I suppose. All right. Whew. Get the ladder already off. Got that there. I'm going to get an air conditioner. I don't know if that's an optical illusion or what, but it looks like it's got a little slope in there. I don't know. Just a bit. Looks like it to me, like it's kind of sunk in just a shade. We'll check that out. This is your typical RV roof where they slobber more on. What a cash cow for Dicor. That is crazy. Look at all that fracturing. Those are all potential leaks right in there. That's what they are. And then definitely, we'll probably go around these lights, but whole coach should be resealed. A lot of what we find is just the sealant gone, and that's what causes it. You got a little bit of stitching there. You see you got some scratch in the awnings. That's kind of per typical. We shall jaunt around, but we were hoping this will be a quickie. Had some issues here, I guess. That concerns me. Where does that water go? It comes down. I really don't like the way these corners are. Usually water just gets right in there. That's why we try to push everything down on the side so it rolls off. But if water got in there and they noticed a leak, I'm wondering if it's in the wall. We may take a poke at that just to make sure there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there. And let's see. Well, you got obviously all the covers on there. You should have those on there anyways. I've seen too many times where folks get down the road, then what happens is when the depending on the vent type, but when the wind goes over it, it kind of vibrates a little bit, and then it starts opening up, and then you park it and you don't realize you have an open vent. Get leaks. All right, we're going to take all this off of here. You got another galley right here. They just want you to keep slobbering this stuff on there. How thick could you think you could ever get that before? You know, if you own this and you did what they said to do, you'd have caulking built up like a moat. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Like you say, it's their cash cow. Had some issues up here, probably from a previous AC work. And we got a 1-guard automatic. We're going to move all this up underneath there. So, all right. Well, we're going to get to work and tear this thing apart and see what's underneath it. All right. So we got the decking up, and this is what they call their radiant barrier sheathing. Some of them call it a moisture barrier, vapor barrier, but this aluminum is supposed to reflect some of the UV light, but you can't. They nailed everything down. No glue. So they just use these tiny little nails. Those are little box nails that you use for shingles on a house, like literally cedar shingles. That's what that is. So we're probably still going to leave this in here. It really doesn't work that effectively unless there's a big gap between the insulation, and you can find that out. LP Tech and Solar Board, they have instructions on how it works and how you install it. But that being said, we're just going to cut it and drop it down in between there so we can get glue on the trusses so we can put the glue the new sheathing down. So, and then this other corner right here, it's dry. So that was one of my concerns. If all that was wet, then I would have removed that corner mold right here to see what was going on. So then another concern I had, and we're going to investigate that, the air conditioner looked like it was dropped in a little bit, and I don't know if that's an issue or not. So right here, it looked it to me, but there is a slight hump. Looks like a slight hump right here going down this way, and it may just be the framing of it. So we'll check a couple things out when we get all this off of here. And then really a high center one here. this should have been, these trusses are all the same size. So when you come up onto a transition like this one actually needs to be shorter so it can accommodate for the angle that it's sitting on. It's coming this way. So it's it should have been dropped down a little bit. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's probably something we're not going to fix, just an FYI, I guess. And that's about it so far. So that's what we're doing, trying to pull all these nails out that they got in here and then clean it up. We'll pull the insulation out, and then we're going to check everything like we normally do. We're going to check everything, like all the trunk lines. We're going to check, see if there's any wires that need to be protected. You know, I mean, something that's going through wood, that's not a problem, but I like to check the 120 lines. Sometimes they'll put them, a lot of times they'll put them through a ferrule. If I see one, I'll show you. I've shown them on other videos as well. So, all right, let us get to work. Now that the roof is all cleared out, now we're going to check all our trunk lines. We're going to check all the tape on them. Checking all the tape. And that's what we're doing over there, is taping up that box right there. And then down on this other side. We don't see any wires going through anything right here, so we're going to keep that in mind there. There may be a couple up here. See the yellow ones going in there? Those are your power 120s. There's probably a ferrule right in there, that metal ferrule. We're going to put a bushing in there. So we're going to get that. But this is one of the way they tape these up in the factory. Yeah, that'll hold. So what's the sense in putting a whole roof on? People say, hey, I shouldn't have to redeck it. Yeah, you do, because if this breaks right here, like it is, then what do? Take the sealant out? Even if you were able to get an endoscope up in there and go, yeah, there it is, and you take out the sealant to fix that, well, then the next one could break down here. If that one breaks, what are you going to do? Have all these cuts in your sealant? That doesn't make sense. And it's also not glued down. It needs to be glued down. The glue acts as a buffer. These things rack and shift and twist, and all that energy goes to the fasteners and it will loosen them up. That's why you'll see some of these, even the roofing, they don't use very good glue on the membrane itself. But the point is, it adds more strength to it. Keeps it a little more sturdy for sure. And then it takes all that taxing of energy away from the fasteners. That's the whole purpose to it. So that's why we're going to glue them down. Years ago, they used to glue them down until, I guess, 2007 or so, when the recession started settling in. They figured they could save some money on glue, and that's what they did. So, but we need to fix that. And this is right here is going to be an exhaust, an intake, and then over on the other side is an exhaust. Right here, we're going to put a fan in there, so it'll pull some air. And then, like I said, we're going to check everything else that we need to check for, like, breaching. See? You can have all that cold air coming up into this, if you want to call it the attic area. You don't want that. And like I said, we're going to get some bushings. I'll get some bushings and show you what they're like. We'll get it. So down inside there is a metal ferrule. Basically, it's so you don't put a fastener through anything. It's just basically a tube. And you know, I say, hey, these manufacturers won't put one more red cent into a coach. That's what this is, about a cent. It's red. And these are actually is code. This is code on residential and even electrical when using a BX cable, but those are code. I'll bet if we loosen that up, you'll probably see that wire looks compromised. Can you get up there and see that? I'm too short. Just pull that wire back a little bit. I just want to see underneath it. Oh yeah, look at that score underneath there. You can see that little mark. Can you lift it up a little more? There it is, right there. I'll get the camera right. Get the wire out of the way. You can see that. So what we're going to do is put that bushing in there. You get it? You got your finger stuck? So that's all that does. It just sits in there like that. And that's what protects that from that metal ferrule. I'm going to go do the other one too. They just slide right in there. That's all they do. Ta-da! So the last thing I want is a customer going down the road and then they go to flip a switch and nothing works. And they go, hey, you put a screw through something. No, it's all this bad quality of work. But we take our time to check everything, make sure, you know, we're not going to be putting screws where they don't belong, right? But also, like you said, that right there, how you fix that? Tear sealant out, tear their wall out, something's got to come apart. You know, you certainly don't want to take up a roof if you don't have to. All right, well, let us vacuum it all out. You can see that's what we're doing now. Get it nice and clean, then we can see what's going on, if there's anything weird or not supposed to be there. And then we'll put the insulation back, and we'll cut that aluminum foil there. We'll cut that, drop it down in the bay. We'll glue here, put our decking down. Look at all that glue. So we glued everything down. Now we're fastening it down. We've got all the foil put back in place, and we're going to deck her up, get her all decked. So we do have a difference. This is lining up. This one here is off, dropped just a bit. That one, and then this one is dropped even more. So we're going to go inside and jack it up, and we're hoping that'll take care of it. And then it looks like these ones are at a different angle, the way the roof is. So what happens sometimes is they put these things square with the roof, and the roof it's square with the roof instead of being true, which, I mean, typically it's okay, but the way this one ran out, it don't look like it's gonna seat right. So if you did tilt it the other way anyways, it would probably raise the elevation. So but that should have been, something should have been done with that. And I don't know if that's just a faulty one, but this particular air conditioner does not have a ductwork, or excuse me, it has ductwork. It does not have a lower control up in the inside or a filter. So like this other one over here does. And you go inside, you'll see either a filter box or the lower control. But like I said, this one does not. So we got to remount that. We're going to mount this a little differently. But nonetheless, we still got to jack this up and see if that'll help it out and kind of balance out the difference. There is quite a bit of difference there. So we're going to just try to smooth out that transition. All right, so you can see how much we got there. Let's see what that is. Just out of curiosity, well, I got about a little over an inch there. So we're going to try and bring this one up. Bring this one up. Come on back. Bring this one back. And that's just a stick we use with a razor knife on it to get up underneath the awning and cut some of the roofing. So pay no attention to that stick. But that's what we're going to try and do to balance it out, because I saw that before we even took the roof off, that it looked like it was sagging down and then coming back up. So we're going to try and get that all right if we can, because I'm not going to tear into someone's wallet for a minor issue like that. As long as it's structurally sound, I'm okay. But I sure would like to try to get it if I can. Oh, look at us moving along. We're getting her done. This side's already done. So we already glued it. You can see all the glue on here. And we're about ready to roll this over. But you can see we've got our protective strips on here. Got them all the way down the whole shoulder. And then those are all glued down as well. And then we've got these glued down. These are protective strips that just go over where the break is, or the joint for the decking. So I put them on there. Sometimes you have a little fluctuation in basically the thickness, the millage of the plywood, and I just like it to look all smooth so you don't see that abrupt transition. I put it on there, and then there's also obviously extra staples and stuff in there, but you know, I like to make sure it's all smooth, and it just adds a little bit more protection on there. Like I said, we staple all this down, it's all glued, and then we're getting ready to roll this one out. So that's where we are now. We'll roll it out. Once we get it rolled out, then we start cutting the holes and putting the curbs on and all that. All right, we have got our Crusader done. We've got our stamp on here, RVRI, RV roof install. That's the date we got her completed. So we do that so when the coach comes in, we can monitor it, you know, when it comes in for inspections. We want to know how old the roof is, you know, see how it's doing, how it's performing. Also, if the customer ever goes to sell a coach, you don't have to worry about someone trying to talk them down, going, oh, those RV roofs, they're still under warranty, a totally different roof system, obviously. But it's, you can say, hey, there's a stamp, that's when it was put on. So we've got all these ladder boots. Those here have been all heat welded in. And then we fill them up with a special sealer, so when the ladder moves, it isn't going to break and breach and then cause a leak. And that's what's pretty common about that die core stuff. They just want you to slobber it all on there, then you end up with all this rot back here. The back corner come up and it returned on the top right here, and that's not good, so we cut all that off. I want everything to roll off the roof. If it's possible for me to do that, that's the way I like to do them. Sometimes I can't always do it, but we like to. So this corner mold we cut back, and then I put a gutter on the back. I don't know if you can see the gutter, maybe that way. There's a gutter on the back. You can see that little gutter spout right there. And obviously the other one is for the other side. But that's going to catch all that rain. Let's get it away from there so it doesn't run down the window. And the less water you have running, drooling down the side of the coach, the better for sure. So the other concern I have with these ladders is these supports that come out here. And there's a couple more down there. When you climb up on the ladder, it just really taxes them really bad. And then they start to loosen up, and then you start getting water behind there. So what I did was, see if I can show you, way down there, see where the ladder goes back into the coach? I put a little leg under there on both sides. You see it on the other side there. I put one on both sides. So this way all the weight now that you're putting on this ladder is going right to the bumper. So you won't have it pulling on that wall like that. So got all that done. And we've also got these couple of stands in the back. It just gives the air conditioner some balance. The air conditioner in itself, obviously you can see we got it mounted up on our curbs. All our curbs, all the curbs I designed, they all have what's called counter flash. Well, this is a piece of counter flash that I built into them. What that prevents, so when water is running across the roof, it's not going to try to run up on top of the curb. Basically, it minimizes erosion effect. So it will get diverted and go around. So this has the same counter flash as all the other curbs. When the water comes down, underneath this air conditioner is a foam gasket. So what may happen is the water come down to the base of that air conditioner, and then the wind drive it back, the rain, into the foam gasket. I don't want that to happen. So I put this other piece of counter flash right here to go below the counter flash on our curb. So then it'll drip down below that. Out she goes. So that's the way we do all that. All the plumbing and everything is all heat welded in. There's no caulking, it's not sealed or anything like that. Obviously there's caulking underneath the vent and whatnot, that's all done. But we also have a different technique the way we do it. I put a nice little gasket on there. I don't just caulk it, and then we don't use butyl. You can see how thick that caulking is, and that's going to be really strong for sure. So all the screws, everything is they're all sealed. The screws are themselves, meaning the tops, so they're like little grommet around there. The plumbing, if that cap pops off, the only place for that water to go is down into the holding tank. Unlike all the other ones in the RVs where they have that big cup that goes over there, once that thing breaches, it can go into the roof deck and everywhere else. It's not sealed proper. So these ones here, they can't leak anywhere else but drain down into the holding tank. So we got the skylight all squared away, you can see, and he bought this clear lens. And the thing I hate about this clear lens is that they don't frame all that. When they put all the framing in there, you see all the wood framing. And that just looks real unsightly. So we wrapped it all with aluminum. Went in there, got all that cleaned up. And you can see that little slot in there, right in the back. This little slot, you can see that. And then there's another little slot right down over here. So what that's for, this is an intake. This is a solar fan. So what typically happens is that when the frost sits on here, the sun comes up, will evaporate that off. We'll say the dew, okay, the colder air. It'll, when the sun comes up, it will evaporate it off. But on the inside of this lens, on the other side, on the actual inside of it, it's not going to get evaporated off. So what happens is it will just trickle all the way down, condensate down, and trickle down, and then the wood deck and everything else soaks it up, and then you start getting rot. That's why you may notice on your coach, you may notice all around the inside, the ceiling starting to get discolored, or maybe the inner lens isn't staying in because the ceiling's starting to rot out. Or you may notice it actually on the roof deck itself. So to prevent all that, the only way you can get rid of that problem is, and this is a manufacturer's defect, the only way you can get rid of that problem is to get air through it. So I came up with this system here. Like I said, this is a ventilation system. This is an intake. So what happens is when the sun comes up to evaporate this off, that's a solar fan. It'll kick right on. Once that kicks on, it's going to start pulling air from here, through here, go up the inner lens, right? It'll get pulled, and it'll go down through here, and it'll get exhausted out, and you'll have that constant airflow going through there. As long as the sun's up, that's going to be running. So you don't have to go out there and flip a switch. You don't have to go and turn something else on to get rid of all that. So that's an easy fix in the sense. Not easy to make, but it's the only thing I could come up with that would solve the problem. So when folks come to us and they have issues, I don't want them to have the same issues. So I try to do the best I can to find a solution for these things. So and we put these on all of the coaches now. So that's when you come in and get a roof done with us, you're going to you see us tear the roof deck up. We inspect the underside. we'll put all the bushings in and things like that for the wires, any compromised wires that may be wrapped up in a ferrule or something that looks like they're compromised. Those little red bushings that I put in, I'll put those in. We tape up all the duct work. We check out everything we can, put fresh plywood on here, and all this is all plywood. It's BC grade plywood, 1/2 inch. That's glued down and fastened down, so we get all that. Then the roof goes down. That's just protocol. That's just the way we do our systems. So you can see this air conditioner here has the same stands, and it's got the same. It's a different design on the air conditionings are. So we got a different counter flash on the front, but otherwise it's the same principle, just different design. Now the antenna right here, that has bolts right there. So if we have any issues with the antenna, maybe it fails or whatever, and also they're galvanized, all you have to do is unscrew those 3 bolts and then undo the coax, and that thing will come right up. It's that easy. So we got 2 strikes of caulking all the way down. Everything's 2 strikes. Went around the lenses, the lights in the front, and you can see how much caulking they had on there. They slobbered it all on there. We do, sometimes we can, you know, it'll clean up well, sometimes it won't. We have to put decal or something on there, make it look good. But nonetheless, we got two strikes of caulking around there. We got 2 strikes all the way down above this gutter. And then the gutter is actually glued to the roofing as well and screwed. Once we put down 1 strike, we wait for it to cure. We go back and we put yet another strike on top of it. And if you've ever run a caulking gun and you just start squeezing along, you'll hear it pop and crackle. Basically what you did is you just injected an air bubble in there. So my belief is, hey, let's put another strike over that one. What are the chances of having 1 air bubble over another? It'll be slim to none. So we put this other insert trim in. And keep in mind, these aren't DIY videos. If you get some tips, great. Hey, that's awesome. But you know, they're not really geared for that. We're trying to show Mr. Customer all the work we did. And also, if I didn't say that earlier, I want to thank him for coming all this way for us to do the roof for him. All that being said, we want to take the time to do it right. We don't want to do this again. We're done. So this, I know I get a lot of things I'm trying to say here, right? So this insert trim, I special order all this, and I have to buy 2 miles of it at a time. So that being said, like I said, we do not sell anything. We don't sell anything at all. We're not a sales shop at all. We're just a service center. So we put this one in here, and I'll show you down there how all these screws that are up underneath into this gutter, every one of them have caulking around the heads of them, like a grommet. And then you can look at this, and you can see it's got that little slot in there. And that's what gets it to seat in there. And this stuff is really hard. I'm going to have to get a tool to put that back in there. I just wanted to show you how it did, you know, how it works. And I've got another sample I'll show you here in a second. So this actual membrane is a 60 mil commercial grade TPO, which is a thermoplastic. That's why everything heat welds together. There's the same exact product you're going to find on a hotel, an office building, a library, a restaurant. Same exact product. I buy them from a commercial warehouse. So what I did is I modified all of the curves and everything to fit an RV. So, and I have to fabricate every single one, no matter what shape it is, size it is, whatever it is, I'll fabricate it. So that being said, this is a structured membrane though. And what a structured membrane is a piece of our roofing here. If you look at this roofing, you'll see all those little squares in there. There's basically a mesh that's in there, and it's got a weave, and this is the weave right here. That's the weave, and what that does is add strength, and it'll resist like tree branches and hail and so forth. Super strong system, but it only wants to lay 2-dimensionally. It's not a 3-dimensional product. Sorry about all the noise over there. We're screwing down another roof deck on another coach. But so you may end up with a couple little burps like this, and that happens when you have the transition of this roof on an angle this way, and now you come over here and you got the transition of this kind of flattening out. So, and you got camber, and you're going to have imperfections somewhere. You're going to have them slightly here and there. So we do the best we can to obviously prevent them, but still, it is what it is. So that's now getting back to this ventilation system. If this gets popped off with a tree branch, if a tree branch pops that off, grab that cap and put it on here, because it will leak inside. It will leak inside. Take that, put it on top of here. You can always get another one, and that there will only go down into your holding tank. I don't want this leaking inside there, but there's a little spring clip inside this that holds it, but a tree branch could pop it off. That's why we put an extra rivet in there to make sure it was going to be a little stronger instead of that little plastic weld that they kind of put on there. So that is our Crusader. So we appreciate y'all watching. And oh, let me show you that too. I see you just past it. So this is your typical insert trim right here. And you can see it just fits in that track, okay? It just slides in back and forth, right? So what I don't like is the gutter. Turn it around. So the water can get down inside that track, and then it can follow in there. I'm trying to keep as much water out as I can. So this, you can see it's got a groove right there. Hopefully you can see it in the camera. It's got a groove, and it goes in there. It sits in the inside of the track and on the outside of that track. You see? If I show you a better way, maybe this way. So it really keeps a lot of that moisture out. And again, this is some really rigid. The black is really rigid. And the same with the white. This is all custom order stuff. But the RV industry doesn't want to use the good stuff. It just, they don't care. Get it built, get it out, get it sold. That's their mentality. So we obviously went around all the lights, double checked all that, made sure there's, everything was nice and tight. And that's us. So we appreciate you watching. We've got a couple more little burbs here that may settle down a little bit when it gets a little warmer. They'll probably settle down a little bit. We like to see the coaches come back. 30 days, I like to see them come back so I can do an inspection. If it was 60, all right. But I really want to take a look at them because they're fresh. And these things move around a lot. They jockey around a lot, rack and flex and twist. And I want to make sure everything is seated the way it should be. And do the quality jobs that the customer came in for. But the only way I can double check my work is when I see it again. So we'd like them to come back, take a look at it. After that, you come back once a year. And we're going to do the same thing. I'll go over everything, make sure all the caulking's seated right. We double check all the welds. That's just a smart thing to do, and that's the same thing you do on a commercial roof anyways. That's how you do a project. Once you get one done, you go back, double check it, make sure everything's good, then you go back annually and you do it. That's all standard procedure. So and there's just another boot right there. Now the cleanup on this is pretty easy. You can use some simple green, you can use some dish soap if you like, whatever, scrub it up. You could also bring it to a truck wash and tell them to get on up there and pressure wash it down. It should be cleaned a couple times a year, and it'll stay nice and brilliant like this if you keep it right. So, well, thanks for watching. We see you on the next one. Care package. Right. So in our care package, we have caulking, we got primer, we have got 2 patches. Those are heat patches. We got a patch peel and stick patch. We got a checker tool. We've got a magnet. And the rest of this is just pens, keychains, brush, nozzle. Okay, so if we have a hole in the roof, it will simulate a hole. You can do hole simulations. We say we got a hole there. Here's your tree branch come through and you're like, oh man, I got a hole in my roof, it's leaking. So what you want to do, and it's raining out. Right now it's raining, you're like, crap, I gotta stop that leak. You want to get in there, and if you can't get that nozzle in there, don't worry about it. Make it a little bigger. What you're trying to do, you need to get up underneath the roofing, like this. This is what we need to do, get up underneath the roofing. Then you're going to take and you're going to put this up inside there, and you're going to squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hopefully this thing is plugged up. There it goes. You squeeze, squeeze. You want to try and get up underneath this part too. Squeeze up underneath there. Put some more underneath there. Well, we are getting this thing all boogered up. Then what we're going to do, you're going to push it together. See how it oozes out? That's sealed. You're done. This is a moisture cured product. So what? It's a hot mess. Looks terrible. Who cares? Keep the water out. So now, the next day, we're going to go up there, and that's going to be cured looking like that. So we're going to take a knife, and you just shave it down. Just shave it down with a knife. I'm just going to obviously wipe this off. Now you say, hey, I want something a little better than that. So what we're going to do is get some cleaner. This is a terrible rag. You got another one. You got one on you? Oh, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag, get a rag. Hey, how you doing? you gonna talk about, man? Nope, just leave it alone. Oh, leave it alone right now. We're recording now? Are we on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alright, so now we cleaned it off with a knife. I just washed that up because it's still wet. Take that off. So now we got a patch. This is a peel and stick patch. We're going to take that, we're going to center it over there. Just take a pen and go around like this. I like to kind of put a dash like that so I know who's where, what, and where, and how. So now there's what I got. So in the package we got primer. We also have a brush. You're going to take that, you're going to go all inside the square. You also got to go outside this square about 3/8 of an inch. Outside about 3/8 of an inch or so. Once you get that, there's a film on the back. You peel the film, now you know which side you are, see, because there's your marks. And you peel that film back. Get the fingers in there to get the film off of this thing. This is just a regular roof tape. That's all it is. We put them in all the care packages. Get that daggum thing off of there. Probably need some fingernails. Probably help. Come on. There it is. Okay. Hey, there it is. Now you got the film. We take that film. So now we're going to line it back up with this. We already got the primer under there. You just peel the film back, and as you do, you just rub it down like this. Sometimes that film will get a little stuck in there. This is just a butyl. You just kind of try to keep it as even as you can and flat as you can. Boom, you're done. There it is. So now, out here, this is where your primer is. You put the primer on there. You got primer there, and now you're going to put primer here. You want to prime all this area with your brush. Prime all that. Then you're going to come back. Once you get it all primed, then you're going to put a little bit of caulking on it, just like this. That's simple. If it doesn't all sit in there, you can always take your finger and go around it if you want. We're trying to obviously stop a leak and make one of. There's going to be a little more permanent of a patch than just that plug that we did when it was raining. So now that we got that all done, the whole purpose of it is this part here. This part underneath here, that's a butyl. When the sun hits that, if you didn't have the caulking on there, it will cause it to release and curl up just like I'm doing here. And it'll start coming loose. That's why you need the primer. That's why when you prime it, you're going to prime on top of this because nothing will stick to it. Nothing, the caulking will not stick to this patch and it won't stick to the roof unless you use the primer. That's how you do a patch. Ta-da! All done.